Well, yeah, it's been a minute, hasn't it? A minute and a half exactly. I had originally intended to get this video out on the 19th of August, which would have been World Photo Day, being that there's some topics that I wanted to pick on from past videos that I'd explored a little bit. And obviously a couple of people have been asking in comments on Twitter and some direct messages about what's been going on since August 6th of last year, when I think those who know I don't really need to tread fresh ground with that again, or there's other videos up here that I have exploring exactly that topic, but I will give a little update. But the first thing that I really wanted to talk about was going back to an issue that I touched on in my second video about copyright creation and fair use and the boundaries of that. And maybe some of you already know this, maybe some of you this will be new news, but I had spoken about the impending litigation, or rather the outcome of litigation at the Supreme Court in the United States between the Andy Warhol Foundation and photographer Lynn Goldsmith over the late Andy Warhol's use of one of her photographs of Prince to create a derivative, or some would say transformative work based on Goldsmith's original photograph. Now, a couple of months back, the Supreme Court ruled on that case, and they ruled that they had ruled that the Andy Warhol Foundation had infringed on Goldsmith's copyrights and that the use was not a fair use. Now, I've got a note here on screen that will talk a little bit about the reasoning behind that. There's a key quote in there which is very important for anyone that engages in creation videos, for YouTube or other platforms. About the boundaries have shifted a little bit now about what you can and can't do. So let's get into this here. And it says, a photographer may also license her creative work to serve as a reference for an artist, like Goldsmith did in 1984 when Vanity Fair wanted an image of Prince created by Warhol to illustrate an article about Prince. As noted by the Court of Appeals, Goldsmith introduced uncontroverted evidence that photographers generally license others to create stylized derivatives of their work in the vein of the Prince series. In fact, Warhol himself paid to license photographs from some of his artistic renditions. Such licenses for photographs or derivatives of them are how photographers like Goldsmith make a living. They provide an economic incentive to create original works, which is the goal of copyright. Now, how might this affect you if you're a streamer, a YouTuber, or any other kind of creator? Well, if you run the risk of taking somebody else's work, somebody else's material, and not contacting them, not seeking advance consent for that material, and thinking, hey, I'm going to be covered by fair use law. That's obviously if you're in the United States. If this happens, I'll just say, hey, this is a fair use, and we'll deal with that dispute at the time. If the person whose work you've used, whether that's a photographer, an illustrator, a painter, any kind of visual artist or video artist, you've used someone else's video material, audio material, and they normally license their work out for the type of use you have made of it, then there's a pretty good chance that if it were to be litigated, that it would be found to be not a fair use. And there's other factors that come into play: the amount, substantiality, the portion, how much transformative there is. But this lawsuit, this case that went to the Supreme Court, was on the nature of transformativeness. And the law, in the wake of the Supreme Court opinion, now tilts towards, if there's an existing market, if people already are in the habit of licensing the works that you then make use of, it's less likely to be found to be a fair use under transformativeness than it was before this verdict came out. So that's something I wanted to touch on because I had mentioned it in previous video, and that's, it's not new news. I think this was April, May that this opinion came out, but obviously I've not been here on YouTube since then. The other big thing that happened recently, and this is pertinent again for content creators out there, is just this past weekend, I think it was Friday, there was a case heard about Stephen Thaler's artwork, his AI generated piece. I forget the name of it right now, but he had tried to copyright an AI generated artwork, or rather register the copyright of an AI generated artwork with the United States Copyright Office. He tried several times to do this, and the Copyright Office had refused because copyright generally covers works of human authorship. That's the standard in most jurisdictions around the world, and it certainly is the standard in the US. Now, Thaler, when he was repeatedly denied his ability to register a copyright in his work, took to suing the United States Copyright Office, and the judge in that case just handed down a opinion memorandum and a related judgment just a couple of days ago. And there's an important element of that I want to talk about here, and it says the issue of whether non-human sentient beings may be covered by person in the Copyright Act is only fun and conjecture for academics, though useful also in illuminating the purposes and limits of copyright protection as AI is increasingly employed. Now, a more condensed version of that would be, if you're in any way using generative AI products to create, whether it's a still image, a moving image, audio, whatever, and you have next to no input on that, you're just basically randomly selecting the result of your prompts, and the AI, the computer at the other end of that, is doing all the heavy lifting, then it's ineligible for copyright registration. That's important because in the United States, if you want to sue someone for making use of work that's yours, whether it's a video, image, music recording, any other audio recording, you first need to have in hand your copyright registration. You cannot go into federal court without having first successfully registered a copyright. So copyrights aren't self-enforcing. It's not a case of, hey, you infringed, and that's evidence enough before the courts. Not in the United States anyway. In other places like the United Kingdom, we don't have a register of copyrights, so copyrights automatically exist. But here in the UK as well, not wanting to sidetrack too much, there is still that requirement of human authorship in the most part. So yeah, if you're using AI elements in any of your creativity, like I said, whether that's still images, motion images, audio, whatever, be aware that you cannot register the copyright in it, which makes it effectively, at present, a public domain work. It's like no copyright subsists in it, which means, in theory at least, that anyone else could come along and take what you created, what you have used as part of your overall work, whether it's a minor element of it or a significant element, it's the whole thing. They could take that and you would have no standing to sue them. You'd have no basis to take legal action against them in the United States courts. Whether that's the same in the rest of the world and in other jurisdictions, that's a matter for local law to develop and for local legislation to develop and set those boundaries and set those lines about where the line between AI and human is drawn. But presently, in the United States, it's a no-go. So be aware of that in your creative endeavors. Obviously, to come back to the meat of it, a lot of people have been asking me for updates on what's gone on since August 6th with the whole Lady Decade Top Hat Gaming Man situation, and the really short version, which is probably the best that I can do, is there's nothing concrete to update you with at this point in time other than it's now formal process and has been for several months, and once it's within those gears, it trundles away at its own pace. I've got no control over the pace of development and the pace of progress on it, but it has progressed, it is progressing, and maybe I'll have an update in a couple of weeks. I'm still waiting on word about certain things. But yeah, it's kind of out of my hands and in the lap of someone else right now, and we'll see how that goes. And honestly, yeah, there's other things I'd rather be paying attention to. So I'm kind of grateful that it's not constantly there, like a pressure, like something that's requiring attention. Most of my week. I've obviously graduated from university back in July. I got my first class honours degree. My dissertation was obviously on copyright matters, so that was quite good. That was well received, and I'm progressing on to a master's degree, which will be starting in September. I'm still not sure the exact date. The university has yet to come back to us with exact timetables of when things are supposed to be kicking off. So that's really where I want my attention to be. And some of you may have noticed, obviously studying at master's level is expensive. I've got most of it covered, absolutely most of it covered, but I'm doing some slightly tongue-in-cheek stuff, some fun stuff to help fund that along the way. I'm not looking for handouts. I'm not looking to grift anything or to e-beg for anything. If you're interested in some of the t-shirts that I've made, if you want to support that way, help me get through my master's, brilliant. Also, again, I wish I'd been able to upload this yesterday on World Photo Day, but I do now have prints of my personal work available for sale, some limited edition prints, again, to help fund that master's degree that I'm going on to. Again, I'm mostly funded, mostly self-funded. There's a little bit of a gap that I'm trying to make up, trying to cover, and I don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, here's some prints over the last 33 years of me having picked up a camera. And incidentally, right here, I have the very camera that I first picked up 33 years ago. It's a little bit like Ferris Bueller. That particular Christmas, I thought I was getting a computer and ended up getting a camera, but instead of that being a bad sign, I kind of leaned into it, done a fair bit of film photography, took a film photography class in high school of all places for a couple of weeks. I think I've spoken about that before. But yeah, this is the first time I've actually put myself out there and decided to sell some of my personal work, my photographic prints from travels around the world and more locally as well. So check them out if you've got the time. Let me know what you think about them. And yeah, I will probably do a more proper full update when there is something to properly and fully update everybody on. I have no idea how long that will be. It may be a while. It may be that I have to wait for a break in my study schedules before I can do that update, because I'm under no illusions that a master's degree in law is going to be tougher than the past 4 years of my degree combined, probably, and I'm still waiting to see how that's going to shape out. So anyway, thank you for taking a moment out of your day to watch and listen here, and I hope to have another video out, probably not as long as the delay between them as there has been. It was October, November last year, so we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Okay, see you later.